Hey there, ghouls. It's the Creepmas season, and I know this is a very hectic time of year for all of us, but I'd like to invite you to kick back, relax, pour yourself a hot cocoa, and let me read you a story. Every night from now through December 24th, I will read you a chapter from my new holiday creature feature, Christmas Creeps from the Deep. So tune in and hang out with me at 7 p.m. Eastern Time every night for a new chapter. Let's get to it, shall we? Chapter 14. The plan goes to the dogs, or rather, to the gingerbread. The squeak of snow boots on linoleum filled the air as everyone shuffled around, getting ready. Al took the shotguns off the display rack and sporting goods and handed them out. The grannies stood guard over the windows. Jethro and Kyle with the C wrestled football shoulder pads over their sooty cult robes. Earl stood by the door, one hand on a pallet jack, the other patting down the thick beige foam of his gingerbread man costume looking for his lighter. Yep, Earl was a gingerbread man. Ted handed over the costume without argument. The cookie-shaped foam was silly, but it was also thick, flexible, and it offered a lot more protection than Granny's snowman stretch pants and Aunt Clara's clearance rack Christmas sweater. When Earl felt the lighter, still tucked snug in his waistband, his shoulders relaxed. The lighter was the key to everything. Because Al did have just what they needed to grab the fish's attention. New Year's Eve fireworks, stacked on a pallet jack so high Earl couldn't see over it, enough to light up the Northwood sky like the 4th of July. Earl was going to wheel it outside and make a scene the locals, fish and human, would never forget. Earl ran through the plan in his head a few more times, trying not to think about what would happen if it all went sideways. Then he said, "Is everybody ready?" "No, I can't move in these." Kyle with a C threw his pads to the floor. Then he grabbed the sleeves of his robe and ripped them clean off with one yank, revealing his massive milky white arms. "Whew, that's better. I hate sleeves. They're arm cages. But it's freezing out there," Jethro said. "I've got plenty insulation." Kyle with a C patted his belly, then stretched his now naked arms. "We're ready," Granny said. She and the other grannies, guns loaded, ammo bags slung over their shoulders, had a look of grim determination on their faces. They looked like an elite military unit that had been training for this moment for years, because they were, in a way. Turns out Granny's Knitting Club was really a disaster preparedness group that happened to make useful ammo-related handicrafts. The old ladies had turned Earl's ideas into a solid, actionable plan in under 15 minutes. It was surprisingly good for morale. If a bunch of wrinkled old ladies were brave enough to go outside and fight a bunch of fish monsters, nobody else had an excuse. Kyle with a C finally made it into his shoulder pads and saluted Granny. "I'm ready, boss." She said, "Are you two sure Jethro's truck is big enough to run over however many of those things stand between you and the plant?" "Sure is." Jethro jingled the keys. "You two got your emergency supplies?" Granny asked. They checked their tool belts one more time. Flare guns, clearance rack Bluetooth speakers with disco domes on top, Mariah Carey Christmas CD, pistols, loaded, and some muscle, just in case. Kyle with the C lifted a giant sledgehammer and parked it on his shoulder. "What are you going to do with that?" Granny asked. "Don't know yet. Can't hurt might help." "Okay then, as long as it doesn't slow you down," Granny said. "You two got a plan B if things go bad out there?" "Sure do," Kyle with a C said. "Worst comes to worst, I'll shut that plant down with a bang." He winked, and everyone was sensible enough not to ask for details. Best to let things slide with killer fishmen on the loose. "All right, you two better get going," Granny said. Al came forward, hands shaking, holding a ring of keys. "You two should go out the back. Delivery entrance. Hopefully there won't be as many, Al looked at the window, at the mob of sharp-toothed fishmen outside, and swallowed hard. "You two better get. Won't be fewer of them as time goes on." Granny shooed him off. Al nodded, and the three of them went to the back of the store. They disappeared through a set of metal swing doors. "We're ready." The mayor, outfitted in hockey goalie pads, pushed a wheelbarrow out of aisle 3. His secretary, Gloria, lay in it. She'd been the secretary for more mayors than Earl had fingers. She knew City Hall inside and out. She was crucial to the mission. The wheelbarrow was the fastest way to get her from here to there. Gloria was as big around as she was tall and looked worse for wear. Her silver-purple wig was hanging on by a thread, and she'd broken the chunky white patent leather heel off of one of her dress shoes. She said, Sorry, y'all. If I'd have known we'd be fighting monsters tonight, I would have worn my tennis shoes. Don't you worry. We'll get you to City Hall. I'll make sure of it. Maddie Pickens lifted a tiny handgun out of her blue sequin purse and patted Gloria on the leg. Gloria wagged her finger at the mayor. Next time you pay 10 grand for a sound system, you pay attention when the installers show you how to use it. I can't be the only one. It's a security issue. 10 grand? Old Mr. Hanson yelped. He wasn't the only one who gasped when Gloria mentioned the price tag. Now, everyone. Holiday Lake is a tourist destination, and this kind of thing adds to the ambiance. It keeps people coming back, spending money, year after year. The mayor's voice was soothing, always the politician. Why, we had a 10% increase in foot traffic in the square this year, and the music was a big part of that. It's an investment that will pay for itself. We also had a 100% increase in killer fishmen, Maddie Pickens said. I don't see any of them whipping out their credit cards. The mayor was smart enough to zip his lips and wheel Gloria to the front door. Earl tugged at the fake icing smile on his gingerbread suit and prayed. They were going to need all the help they could get, Divine included. All right, everyone knows their jobs? Granny addressed the troops. They all nodded. Everyone got their speakers and weapons? They all nodded. Granny looked at Earl. Earl looked at Granny. They were as ready as they were ever going to be. All right, no time like the present. Let's do this, Granny said. Wait, you aren't going out there without me. A second gingerbread man pushed through the crowd. Holly's face poked out of the icing smile. She held that pink gun to the faux candy buttons on her foam gingerbread chest and stepped up next to Earl. Earl didn't want her to go, but he could tell by the look on her face he couldn't stop her. Granny Anderson said, Open on 3, and started the countdown. This was it. They had a plan, and it was now or never. On 1, Granny Anderson unlocked the front door, leaned out, and fired the flare gun. Fizzing red light shot through the square. The fish's watery blind eyes followed the light. The flare hit a big one in the chest. The massive beast squealed and fell over. All the creatures hissed. Sorry, didn't mean to hit one, Granny Anderson said. Doesn't matter, it's working, Granny said. The fishmen waddled toward their fallen friend, clearing a path between Owls and City Hall. It wasn't much of a path, but it was enough. Misty Pines Thursday Night Knitting Club, to your posts! Granny waved the grannies out the door, and they all lined up along the front window, guns up, like snipers. Granny wheeled after them, but Earl stopped her before she went out. You sure? I feel better if you stayed inside. Son, it's up to the old folks to lead the way. You kids are supposed to learn what to do by watching us. And my generation hasn't always been good role models, but that changes tonight, she said. I love you, Earl, and I want you and everyone else in here to live a long, good life, even if it means mine ends. That's why I've got to go. I love you, Granny. Earl blinked his tears away. Promise me you'll come back safe. I can't promise that, but no matter what happens, I love you. Don't ever forget. She wheeled outside and joined the other granny snipers. Maddie Pickens went out next, pistol up, followed by the mayor and his wheelbarrow full of Gloria. Gloria activated her Bluetooth speaker, and the high-pitched squeal of Mariah Carey on repeat cut through the night. Every fishman in earshot retreated from the high note as the three of them wheeled toward City Hall. The fish seemed powerless against the music. One of them flopped on the pavement like a walleye that had just jumped out of a cooler. The store was pin-drop silent. All eyes were on Gloria, Maddie Pickens, and the mayor as they moved across the square, slow and steady. Mariah Carey on full blast, drowning out the speakers, her high-pitched Christmas squeal neutralizing the fishy threat. I can't believe that worked. You're a genius, Holly whispered. She'd spoken too soon. A wall of fishmen suddenly closed ranks behind the mayor, Maddie Pickens, and Gloria. All Earl could see was scaly white behinds. Then came the sound of Gloria's scream and the toot of Maddie firing her tiny pistol. The grannies lifted their shotguns, aimed and fired, and the square erupted in booms and fish shrieks. Artie, open the door. We're going out, Earl said. Artie Sweeney shuffled over to the door and opened it. Earl grabbed the handle of the pallet jack and started pushing the fireworks out. That's not the plan, Earl Frost. Holly held him back. We're supposed to wait until they put Mariah on all the speakers. That might never happen. We gotta go now. If we light these up, they might stand a chance. Earl pushed the fireworks forward, but stopped when Bub Varney stepped in front of him. What are you doing, Bub? Earl said. Get out of the way. Bub didn't. He saluted everyone and said, Godspeed. Then he ran out the front door. Holly called after him, Bub Varney, you get back in here right now before you get yourself killed. He didn't listen. He screamed, "I love you, Gloria! I'll save you!" Romantic, until he smacked into a fish man and bounced off its butt like a rubber ball. He hit pavement and lay on his back for a second, stunned. Everyone in the store watched, too terrified to scream. A couple of the fishmen went for him. The grannies aimed, but Bub popped up before they fired. He dodged the attacking fish and ran to his cart. He turned on plastic necklaces and blinking snowflake wands, hands moving so fast they were a blur. He was a pro. He had everything lit in under a minute. The fishmen immediately changed direction, abandoning the wheelbarrow full of Gloria. They descended on Bub instead. He disappeared behind a wall of white scales as he screamed, "Run, Gloria, run!" "Artie, the door," Earl said. "Holly, cue the Mariah." Holly turned on the little speaker dangling from her faux candy buttons, then clutched Sparky to her foam cookie chest. Earl pushed the pallet jack toward the door. "It's not too late to stay behind." "I wouldn't dream of it." "Then here goes nothing." "Wait, for luck." Holly kissed him on the cheek. Earl blushed and his knees went a little wobbly, but he straightened up and stayed the course. "Lock the door the second we're out," Earl said to Artie. "Something goes wrong, stay in the dark and stay quiet." Artie nodded and Earl pushed the fireworks outside. He held on white-knuckled and steered toward the lake. It wasn't easy. The square sloped gently toward the water, and he maneuvered the pallet around downed Christmas lights, overturned plastic candy canes, the stray fishmen making their way up to Bub's cart, and Bobby's wrecked pickup truck. One bad bump or false move, and the fireworks would tip, scatter, and the plan would be shot. The pallet jack didn't have good brakes. The cart gained speed, going faster as it headed downhill. Earl had to run to keep up. His legs ached and needles filled both his lungs. Between this and Bucky, he'd run more tonight than he had in his whole life. But he kept going, so fast the foam of his gingerbread thighs rubbed together, burning hot. His brave gingerbread lady ran right along beside him. The two of them steered that pallet jack through the town square, dodging fish and upturned Christmas decorations. Mariah poured from the tiny speaker, tied to Holly's faux candy buttons, stunning every fish close enough to hear it. They made it all the way to Main Street. It was a small miracle. That's when the air filled with the squeal of tires and the rumble of a big exhaust pipe, followed by the thump-thump of Jethro's truck using fishmen for speed bumps. Jethro and Kyle with a C didn't make it to the plant. They made it a few blocks up Main Street, and the fish had them surrounded. Jethro revved his engine, cracked the windows, and cranked up the Mariah Carey on the stereo, then tried to push through the school of fish in front of him. But he couldn't. The creatures were disoriented, but there were just too many of them. "Hold him off, Jethro! I got this!" Kyle with a C screamed and kicked open the passenger door, hitting two fishmen out of the way. Kyle with a C judo rolled across the pavement, sending fish flying like bowling pins. Then he popped up and started running. He ran out onto Holiday Lake, across the ice, sledgehammer in his big pasty arms, which were stark white in the light of the moon. He ran straight across the middle, toward the trees on the far bank, toward the fracking plant. "What the hell is he doing? He'll never make it," Holly whispered. "He will if I can help it. Come on, we're out of time." Earl and Holly pushed the pallet jack toward the boat dock, which was up to the boards and ice on all sides. Holly pointed Sparky at whatever fish was the closest, ready to fire just in case. Shots rang out behind them. "Something's wrong. The music hasn't changed. Mariah's supposed to be on by now. They didn't make it to City Hall. We have to go back. We have to help them," Holly said. "The best way to help them is to stick to the plan and light these up. The fish are distracted. Now's our chance." All true, but not easy. Earl's instinct was to turn around and find Granny, but he pushed the thought of it out of his head and pressed forward. The pallet clipped the curb and started to tip. Holly grabbed the shrink-wrapped tower of explosives and righted it, just enough to keep it on the jack, crooked but upright. She held onto the tower while Earl pushed the pallet jack onto the dock. The air filled with the thunk-thunk-thunk of wheels running across wooden planks, fast. They held on tight and ran faster and faster, building enough momentum to send the pallet jack off the end, out onto the frozen lake. They ran until their boots hit ice, and then they slid, two fat gingerbread cookies holding on tight to a careening pallet full of fireworks, over the lake, away from the shore. Earl's spirit soared. They'd done it. They had actually done it. They'd made it. The pallet hit an ice chunk about 30 feet out, went sideways, and the jack handle snatched right out of his hands. Holly screamed, "Light it up, Earl Frost! Now!" He dug in his costume, fishing for the lighter, but came up with nothing. "I can't find the lighter. I lost it." Holly stuck her hands inside his cookie costume. They moved up and down his body, desperate, searching. Her hands slid into Granny's snowman stretch pants and hit red satin panties. She stopped. She looked at Earl, eyes wide, expression unreadable. She pulled her hands out quick. Her cheeks were flushed pink. So were Earl's. He swallowed hard. I can explain. She raised her hand. She held the lighter between her perfectly manicured bubblegum pink nails. She handed it to Earl without a word, and he scrambled over to the pile of fireworks. He tore into a box, flicked that bic, and lit every fuse he could see, cheeks still burning with humiliation. Any tiny chance he had left with Holly had just gone up in smoke, thanks to Bucky's red satin panties. Earl wished he were alive so he could kill him. The fuses fizzled and sparked, then spread like wildfire. Earl whirled around and grabbed Holly. Run! They did. Holly tried to look back, but Earl pulled her forward. Light exploded all around them, bright as the 4th of July. The air filled with cracks and booms. Sparks rained down. Heat seared their backsides. Hairline cracks formed in the ice. Get off the ice! Earl screamed. They ran as fast as their gingerbread legs would carry them toward that rickety wood pier, ice cracking under their feet with every step. If it broke, if they went under, they'd freeze, or worse. They closed in on the dock. Earl screamed, Jump! But Holly was already in the air, arcing toward the pier, arms and legs out, maneuvering that gingerbread man costume for extra lift like a flying squirrel. Earl wasn't as graceful. He jumped, but belly flopped and slid into the support post at the end of the pier. It knocked the wind out of him. Holly grabbed him, heaved him up onto the dock, right as the ice under him split open and a pair of claws came out slashing. There were more of those fish under the ice. Holly and Earl collapsed on the dock and held on tight, shielding each other from burning sparks raining down all around them. Holly whispered, I sure hope this works. Earl whispered, It did. A wall of fishmen, white scales glittering in the exploding light, waddled toward the water, blind eyes fixed on the fireworks. The creatures poured out of the town square, away from the houses and all the terrified families huddled inside, and lumbered toward Holiday Lake. The second the road cleared, Jethro kicked his truck into gear and sped off. Because the plan had worked, they had the fishmen's attention, and every one of them on land was lumbering back to the water. Unfortunately, they were heading straight for Holly and Earl. All right, ghouls, that's all for today. Head back tomorrow for Chapter 15.